It might be that time of the year where you're thinking of getting yourself a new iPhone, but if you have a look on Apple's website, right, I was looking at this the other day, there are so many options that you can now pick up, from an original SE all the way up to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, but always quite difficult to decide on what phone you actually need for the money that you have to spend. And well, this is like a buyer's guide, I suppose, for what iPhone I think is perfect for what people at this time of year. But before we get into the buyer's guide of iPhones, I'm really close to 10,000 subscribers, so if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be quite good. But let's just have a look at what is on Apple's website at the moment, because it's a bit of a confusing mess. If you want to go and buy yourself a brand new iPhone from Apple, these are the options that you have from Apple's website. So you have an iPhone SE, you then have an iPhone 13, you then have the iPhone 14 as well, and 14 Plus. Then after that, you have the iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Plus, then the iPhone 15 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So it's never been more confusing when you want to pick up an iPhone that is right for you. But let's start right with the cheapest option on Apple's lineup, and that is the iPhone SE. This iPhone SE came out in 2022, and it is on Apple's website at the moment for $429. And you might think, actually, $400 to get into the Apple ecosystem seems like a no-brainer, but the iPhone SE, even though it might be the cheapest model that you can pick up in Apple's lineup, is probably one I don't think you should go for. First of all, that display is 4.7 inches, which is now not very good. And it has a 12 megapixel camera, which might be okay for some people, but really, at this point, you should be looking for something a lot better for that money. And then if you're going to get into Apple's lineup with the cheapest iPhone at $429, you need to remember that you're going to take a little bit of a hit as well on stuff like battery life, because this only just has a 2000 milliamp hour battery, so it might get you to the end of the day if you're lucky, but if you're someone who uses your phone heavily, there's actually no way you're going to get to the end of the day with an iPhone SE. But if you're looking to only spend a little bit of money on an iPhone, but can spend a bit more than the $429 on an SE, then the iPhone 13 could be a shout. Now, the iPhone 13 is a bit newer than the iPhone SE, but also a little bit older than the iPhone 15 and 15 Pros, but for that extra money, you do get some bigger and better hardware. So for example, that display goes now to 6.1 inch display. And then when you look at the cameras from 12 megapixels, you then get now two cameras. So a 12 megapixel ultra wide and just a better all round camera experience, from the main lens all the way to that selfie camera on the front. And I mentioned it just a second ago that you would then get a lot better battery life on an iPhone 13 than you would on an iPhone SE. So if you're someone who uses your phone not a huge amount, but a little bit more than an average user, then maybe the iPhone 13 is what you need to look at just for the better battery life. And while we talk about the iPhone SE, you might want to hold off just a little bit, because really soon there could be a brand new iPhone SE coming with things like Face ID and potentially even an action button. But if you need a new iPhone now and you just can't wait until the new iPhone SE comes out, then having a look again at that iPhone 13 could be a real good choice, because it does have Face ID. And if you were going to go for that iPhone 13 and just pay a little bit more, what you can actually get is MagSafe on this as well. And MagSafe might not seem like a big deal, but actually it's really useful, because you have a huge amount of accessories from MagSafe wallets to chargers to cases to those 3-in-1 stands that can charge everything that you have all at once. So it could be an option. So if you have really a limited budget and you want to get into the iPhone ecosystem, then the iPhone SE is probably the way to go. If you have that little bit extra, I'd genuinely say go for the 13, because it gives you a whole lot more and it gives you a better experience of having an iPhone. But when we talk about the best iPhone for everyone, this is where it can get difficult, because you have so many iPhones in that middle range category that if you take loads of photos and loads of videos, you should go for probably a Pro phone. But if you take some photos and some videos, then you should go for one of these phones. But if you like to do lots of video editing and photo editing on your phone, you should go for a Pro phone. But if you just like to do a little bit of editing, then you should go for one of these phones. So it comes down to a lot of what you use your phone for. And again, you look at Apple's website and they still have the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus and the iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Plus as well. But I think if you're going to spend money and get a better phone, you should get rid of the iPhone 13 as an option, because yes, it is cheaper, but I feel like that you need something that's going to give you some more years of updates, and spending a little bit extra is probably worth it. So then you're looking at the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 15. And the iPhone 14 and 15 really didn't change that much. So for example, the displays are both still 60 Hz. They both still use the same Face ID. The displays are exactly the same size, and the battery is pretty much identical as well. So that's why it becomes so difficult to actually pick between these phones and decide which one is the right one for you. Then you might look and say, well, the iPhone 14 has an A15, the iPhone 15 has an A16, then surely the A16 is miles better over the A15. But actually, you know what? They both feel exactly the same to like an everyday user. If you go and ask your mum what a bionic chip she has in her phone, she probably is going to have no idea. But I think there's only really one choice, and granted the iPhone 14 and 15 were really similar, but this year I think there's some noticeable differences on the iPhone 15 than the 14, which means the iPhone 15 should be that mid-range budget phone that almost everyone should go for. The iPhone 15 upgraded things like its design, so it has now a more rounded design and feels so much better than that boxing design that we had on last year's iPhone 14s. And then you go and have a look at things just like colors. So like the colors on the iPhone 15 series, I think are better than the colors on the iPhone 14 series. And that could actually be one of the big reasons that someone would upgrade, because they like a different color more than another. But we still have bigger upgrades on the 15 as well. So you now go and get an improved 48 megapixel camera, which is a huge jump on the 12 megapixel that the iPhone 14 had the year before. So even sometimes that alone can be enough to upgrade. And then you look at it in terms of things that you get as well. You get longer security updates. This phone will last longer and will perform better than an iPhone 14. And even though it's only a year apart, a lot of people don't upgrade their phone every year. Some people keep their phones for 5, 6, 7 years, and an iPhone 15 or 15 Plus will mean that you can keep that phone for that amount of years. And then I almost forgot, the biggest upgrade that Apple have ever done to one of their phones is actually USB-C. And that is a big upgrade. I mean, for a Pro phone, the USB-C is a huge upgrade. But if you're someone who just uses your phone on a regular basis, in fact, upgrading to USB-C might be a bit annoying, because it means that you'll have to buy a whole set of new cables to actually charge your phone. So you just need to remember, if you're going for an iPhone 15, it doesn't use Lightning anymore. It uses USB-C, which is a completely different charging port. So I think that most people then should go for that regular iPhone 15, unless you think battery life is a huge thing for you. Because if you want extended battery life and then can spend just that little bit extra over the regular iPhone 15, then the iPhone 15 Plus is definitely the one to go for, because that battery life is unbelievable. That A16 Bionic chip, it means that this battery is going to last literally all day. Like, you could use gaming, you can go on Twitter and Instagram and take pictures and videos, and actually it's going to last you so much longer than the regular iPhone 15. So if you have that little bit of extra money and you really want to get yourself involved in the Apple ecosystem, the iPhone 15 Plus is the all-round best budget phone if you like battery life. And now, if you want the biggest, the best, the greatest, the fastest, the best looking phone, then you have to go for an iPhone 15 Pro or iPhone 15 Pro Max. But it's not as easy as it was last year, because there's now differences between the two of these phones. In almost every single spec, the iPhone 15 and the iPhone 15 Pro Max are exactly the same phone. The display is the same, the Bionic chip is the same, the cameras are not quite the same, because on the iPhone 15 Pro Max you get a 5x zoom lens, where on the iPhone 15 Pro you only get a 3x zoom lens. Essentially, this just means you can zoom in a couple of times more on an iPhone 15 Pro Max than you can on that regular iPhone 15. So it's actually not a huge big difference, but it is annoying if you prefer better battery life, because actually there's a bit of a price difference in these two phones. There's also new differences on this year's phone, so you have things like that action button that can do quick actions for you, so it can set your phone into do not disturb. You can use it for Siri shortcuts to create almost an unlimited amount of options. You can have it to turn on your magnifier, you can have it to turn on your flashlight, or you can have it just to turn on your phone to silent. So not a huge upgrade, but it's nice to have something new on a phone, and the action button this year is brand new to its iPhone 15 and 15 Pro Maxes. You also get that new titanium body on this phone, which replaces the stainless steel from the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, and actually it does make a huge difference, because this phone now is so much lighter than those older iPhones, and yet you still feel like you're getting a premium device. It also has those rounded edges as well, which just feels so much better in the hand, and I think this year the colors for the iPhone 15 and 15 Pro Max are some of the best colors that we've ever got. And if you're going to pick one of these phones up, go for the white one. White titanium is the only right choice. You also get a 120Hz display, which is unbelievable, but also you get the USB-C port with USB 3 speeds, which is better than the USB-C port on the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus. So it comes down to what you think is best for you. Do you want that extended battery life and a 5x zoom lens? Then the Pro Max is the one to go for. But the regular Pro this year, I think, is probably the best flagship phone you can get from Apple. There is also one other option as well if you want to get into that Apple ecosystem, and this is a bit of a confusing one because Apple have their own Apple refurbished website where essentially there are phones there that aren't now sold on that regular main Apple website. So you can pick up things here like an iPhone mini, you can pick up an iPhone 14 Pro or even a 13 Pro. So this is an option for you to have a look at, because if you want a Pro phone but still don't want to go and get the biggest, latest, best version, then actually an Apple refurbished 14 Pro or Pro Max would actually be a really good phone. So if you can pick up something like that and have a look at the Apple refurbished store, then I'd suggest having a look, because these phones essentially are brand new phones. They've had their screen replaced, they've had their battery replaced, and it's like exactly the same as buying a new phone. You just don't get it in the original box, but you still get the cable, and you still get the 1-year Apple warranty. So Apple refurbished is like a sneaky, almost like cheat code if you're looking to get a brand new iPhone and also be able to just save yourself a little bit of money. So that's my buyer's guide to what iPhone I think you should get. Again, just to recap it, iPhone 15 and 15 Plus for any normal regular user. Again, Pro users, 15 Pro, Pro Max, but essentially I would still stick with the Pro. And if you want to get into the Apple ecosystem, the iPhone SE might seem like a shout, but I would go for something like the iPhone 13, or just have a little look on the Apple refurbished website, because there could be something even better on there, and these change all the time, so it's just a little bit of luck when you have a look on it. But let me know in the comments, what iPhone are you wanting to get hold of, or what iPhones you have at the moment? And if you enjoyed the video, then why not subscribe to the channel and also give the video a like as well. And if you do that, then I will see you later.